Scottsdale. All right, coming up, let's get Alan Korwin on the phone. I really want to talk to this guy. There was a piece on him in the New Times. This guy is a gun law expert. He's up next.
Get outdoors. KTAR News on 92.3 FM and KTAR.com.
All right, once again, the Arizona Sportsman's Expo. We just announced it. August 7th, 8th, and 9th. Westworld of Scottsdale. 300,000 square feet of indoor air-conditioned loveliness. Even the rodeo ring is indoors. Everything's indoors. Can't beat that. All right, did we get Alan Korwin on the phone? You are awesome that you got Alan. Thank you, Bray. I appreciate that. Alan, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Glad to be with you, Mike.
Hey, let me just get this straight. You were the guy that the New Times was talking about. Let's just keep it simple for everybody. You're the guy the New Times was talking about.
I was on the front cover one issue ago. That's correct.
Well, you weren't on the front cover. It looked like a Target. With
They took 200 pictures of me, sent me to a photo studio, had me in the range in my home, and then ran a silhouette of a target with bullet holes in it. I couldn't believe it.
But they did have some pictures inside of you. You look great in the pictures. They were nice pictures. Frameable. That's good for the fridge right there, let me tell you.
Thank you for that. They had my name on the cover, and they put our Gun Save Lives heart, yes, which is a national campaign to get gun safety education everywhere. And so I'll take it. You know, what are you going to do?
Exactly. But I tell you what, I cringed because I thought, oh, no, it's the New Times, and here they got my man Alan on here, and it's going to be a hit piece. Not really. I was actually impressed with how they did it. You kind of felt the snarky gun vibe in there, but then they really honed it down and really said, but this guy does what he does.
Well, let me put in a good word for that. Elizabeth Stewart, the reporter who did that, learned about firearms with me. She had never shot a gun. We took her out shooting. I brought her to a gun show. And New Times has apparently turned a new leaf. When I went into it, they were surprised I accepted the offer to do the feature story. Mm-hmm. And in the past, they have done nothing but hatchet jobs on firearms, people who believe in their civil rights, folks like you and me who understand that guns and freedom go together, and they would just dump on it. Everybody expected a hatchet job. Yeah. And it came out reasonably nice, and I think they're going in a more journalistic, ethical, noble direction, and things changed. This was a wonderful surprise.
Now, I think it was too, and you can check it out. It's online. Just go ahead and Google it. Just go ahead and put in Alan Korwin and the New Times, and the article will pop up.
Now, or go to gunlaws.com. We have a button right on the top of the page at gunlaws.com.
Gunlaws.com. Now, so I want to tell everybody who you are, because if I called you part of the gun lobby, you would probably reach the phone and slap me, because you are not part of the gun. You are an educator.
Well, I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not part of the gun lobby. I'm a guy. I'm an expert in gun law.
Yes. You are an expert in gun law. Now, you've written several books as well, correct?
10.
10?
10 on that subject, 14 altogether. I wrote a book on free speech called Bomb Jokes at Airports, and 186 other things you're not allowed to say. I wrote the book on Wickenburg, or, bomb jokes always gets a laugh. Think about that. You think about that, Mike. When you go to an airport, you go through a sniffer, a wiper, a butt check, a hose, an X-ray machine, a wipe down, a pat down, and on the other side of that, you can't tell a joke?
Right.
I mean, didn't that stuff work?
Exactly. And the whole thing with the joke, because that's what I do when I get nervous, I start telling jokes. And when people are patting me down that I don't know and grabbing me in places that they should buy me dinner first, well, I start to joke around.
They should
and that
buy
can get
you
in
dinner
trouble.
first. I like that. When you go to jihadi school, the first thing they tell you is, if you're standing in line with a bomb, do not tell a joke. I mean, they're not idiots.
Here we go. All right, but you are the expert in gun law, like right here in the state of Arizona, and this is what I love is that you have actually published a book about the actual gun laws, not the ones that we all assume are there or not there. You actually published a book on Arizona itself. Tell us about that.
And that's why I did it. I wanted to know what the gun laws were. This was back in 1988. The book came out in 1989, the Arizona Gun Owner's Guide. It describes all the gun laws in plain English. It's got a copy of them in the back, and we're in our 26th edition because people want to know what the gun laws are. When can you shoot? Where can you carry? Who can buy? What are the laws? And in fact, this came out in dramatic fashion just the other night at the Scottsdale Library. because a fellow was there with his firearm. They have lockers, and we have these complex locker laws now where a government building can keep you out if you're exercising your civil rights, meaning you have a firearm, if they have lockers. Well, the part of the library building that has the lockers closes at 8 o'clock, but the library's open till 9. Well, the library has no legitimate grounds to deny you your civil rights to go in there with your firearm unless they have lockers. Well, the locker part closes at 8, so we're going to keep you out. Almost like no blacks at the lunch counter. They want to deny your civil rights. And it got real complicated, but I know the fellow who was trying to get in, and he called me, and I grabbed my own copy of the Arizona Gun Owner's Guide, because who can remember it all? And I looked up the statute. I gave it to him. He described it to them, and they had no option but to let him come and go in peace.
Good for them. All right. Well, I like that. Now, getting to the law, and I'm dealing with the laws here, not just the assumptive laws that we tend to run with here.
Well, that's 133201.01, if you actually want the law.
We'll check that out. Okay. Well, and he can rattle that right off.
Only because I had to go through it the other day. Normally, you know.
Now let me ask you this then. In Arizona, because we're known a little bit as the Wild West to the other parts of the country, they think it looks like Wile E. Coyote and Tombstone is what Arizona looks like. But if we, to the other part of the country, how many gun laws do we have on the books? Because I know the state legislature was debating, I think, well over 100, and I think they voted on 15. But how many do we have on the books here?
Quite a complex question, Mike. But let me simplify it for you. We have 45,000 words of gun law in Arizona. Now, the numbered statutes don't really tell you much. The 133101 or 133102, which people would think of as the main gun law, controls dozens and dozens and dozens of things, including this tiny little locker law, and then it refers you to another law. So how many statutes? 100 and some odd. I'll look it up and I'll give you the exact number. But 45,000 words of gun law just in the state of Arizona. About 94,000 words of gun law at the federal level, and you're subject to all of it.
Okay. Now, how does that compare to other states?
That's a good question. California, if I recall, has about 150,000 words of gun law last we counted, so they've got more than the federal government has issued. Texas, you want this off the top of my head, I'm going to have to start grabbing for books. The point is this. We have criminalized everything that ought to be criminal about firearms. You can't shoot up a liquor store. You can't wave your gun around and scare people. You can't buy one if you're not allowed to have one. If it ought to be illegal, it already is. So the new laws that people are proposing are laws that would make you a criminal or me a criminal for something that right now is not criminal and that doesn't hurt anybody. They want to outlaw a kind of gun that you may already have. Well, how does that stop crime? It doesn't. And any law that would stop crime is already on the books. These new laws simply infringe on rights you already have. You can't carry your gun here, or you can't own that kind of gun, or your gun can't have bullets that really work.
Right.
Well, that you have little bullets that shoot slowly and don't go very fast. Well, that's trying to disarm you incrementally. Whatever the police think they need for safety, well, we should have because we face the criminals first. And when they try and pass those laws, it's not how many laws do we have. It's will this law stop crime or is this law going to make me a criminal? And typically it's the latter.
Now, obviously, you're passionate about this. I'm feeling it. I'm definitely feeling it. What got you into this? Is this something you just had a passion for your entire life, or did an event spur you into this?
I guess you could say I'm a kind of passionate guy.
I can see.
But no, when I first started publishing the Arizona Gun Owner's Guide, it was much more dry, and these are the laws, and here it is. But as I saw the encroachments on freedom after 26 editions of that book, it just becomes infuriating. And I've grown more passionate about it. I understand the subject better. I get hit with questions from ignorant left-wing journalists that drives me crazy, or even from somebody like you with an innocent question, how many gun laws do we have? And you want a number, and you think maybe the number is meaningful, but the number is just a way to say maybe we need more laws. But we don't need more laws. We need more crime control, and everybody wants more gun control. That's illogical, and I guess I'm like Mr. Spock, but with emotions. That's illogical. You're crazy.
Now, I was getting into that, by the way, and that was the point of my question is that we do have more gun laws than we would ever know that we have. They're just not being enforced. Let's start enforcing those before we make new ones.
Well, before we make new ones, let's just enforce the ones against criminals. We caught the two guys who had helped smuggle 2,300 guns to drug lords in Mexico with our government's assistance. Nobody in the government got arrested. Well, that's absolutely wrong. And the two guys who helped smuggle the guns got 1 month per gun.
Oh.
Now, you would get 5 years per gun
easily,
minimum.
Right.
These guys got 1 month per gun. Well, who's responsible for doing that? The judge and the prosecutor and the people in government who made a deal to give these guys 1 month a gun? They belong in jail.
I agree with you there. You're going to get no argument on this side of the mic, I'll tell you that much. This is Alan Korwin. He's the topic of last week's New Times article titled, and I want you to respond to this when we come back, Gunslinger. Alan Korwin has made a career pushing unbridled gun rights, but critics say he doesn't shoot straight. I say shenanigans. We're going to get his response to that next.
Get outdoors with Mike Russell. KTAR News on 92.3 FM.
Remember to text the word EXPO to 411-923, EXPO, EXPO to 411-923. We're going to get you all the information on the Arizona Sportsman's Expo, August 7th, 8th, and 9th at West World of Scottsdale. Yes, it's indoors. Yes, it's air-conditioned. Yes, kids are free. Yes, vets are free. And yes, it's going to be so much fun for the entire family. And speaking about fun for the entire family, Alan Korwin joins us. He's got a few books out there that, by the way, I've read 2 of them so far, and I think they're great books. And I did read one that was I don't know the exact title, but it's When Your Gun's Hot and the Perp Is Not.
I know which one that is.
Thank you very much. That was the one that was the one on the top of the stack, and I'll have to say, when I read it, I laughed openly, and I just that gets you. That's an attention grabber right there on the cover.
A sense of humor, moi.
See.
Well, the title is After You Shoot.
Yes.
Your gun's hot, the perp's not. Now what? And I got to tell you, Mike, it took me almost 20 years to connect the dots on this. If you're ever involved in a shooting, God forbid, what do you do afterwards? Well, when you talk to a lawyer, they say, just shut up. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. All the lawyers tell you that.
Okay.
Then they tell you, just tell them I was in fear for my life. This guy tried to kill me. There's his gun. This is evidence. These people are witnesses. I was scared. I did what I had to do. And then don't say anything. Well, which is it? Don't say anything or give them this long dialogue.
Okay.
And almost everyone says something. Now, when you dial 911, you're talking into a police tape recorder.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to not say anything. And the Miranda warning is anything you say can and will be used against you. So should you talk or should you shut up?
Well, which is it? Should you talk or should you shut up?
That's a great question. And anything you say can and will be used against you. One of the best self-defense lawyers in the country says that half the convictions in shootings come from the 911 tapes.
Really?
From excited utterances and things you blurt out. I just shot some guy. I hope he dies. I mean, he tried to kill me, the dirtbag. They'll play that for the jury over and over. People say things like that. So calling 911 and talking to them, you have the right to remain silent.
Interesting.
You give that up if you call 911. And it took me, after all the work I've done writing books on gun law, years and years and years to connect you have the right to remain silent, just call 911. Those two things don't go together.
Right.
So I wrote, After You Shoot, Your Gun's Hot, the Perp's Not, Now What? And I spoke to 70 experts about what to do. And the bottom line is nobody has a real solid answer, but we came up with 5 things that help. And one of them is a 911 limited immunity law that the Arizona legislature has looked at twice now but hasn't passed, that says if you make a good faith effort to call police and medical assistance after a legitimate self-defense shooting, that can't be used against you.
Oh, okay.
And it can't be used on the radio until it's brought up in a trial. So they don't play the tapes for the whole world to hear for 2 years before you make it to trial. And it can only be used if your defense attorney will allow it. So that if you yell out something after your blood pressure's up and your adrenaline's running,
you're all fired up,
and you just survived mortal combat, it's like what the police want in these newfangled police Bill of Rights. You can't use anything they say for 24 or 48 hours, and you can't even ask them questions. That's what they want. Well, we should get the same thing, and that's what the 911 limited immunity law is supposed to do if we can get it enacted, and a number of states have looked into it. And my book, After You Shoot, which you'll find at gunlaws.com, that book will help you understand these problems you face. And you ought to have a lawyer so you don't have to ask the people coming to arrest you to give you a lawyer.
That's a good call, too. Now, go to gunlaws.com. I want you to get over there right now. Go to gunlaws.com. His Alan Korwin's library of books that he has authored, that he's researched, that he spent the time on. He's done all of the homework for you, and it's right there, right in front of you. You can buy right on the site, and you can also find a link to the New Times article that was titled Gunslinger. Alan Korwin has made a career of pushing unbridled gun rights, but critics say he doesn't shoot straight. What say you to that title? Because I tell everybody, please read past the headline.
Well, the Elizabeth Stewart, who wrote the article, didn't write the headline, and they write headlines to attract attention. I'm not a gunslinger by any means. I know which end of a gun is which, but I'm a gun writer. I'm a gun law expert. I'm not a gunslinger, but they wrote it. What can you do?
Right.
The idea that the anti-rights people and the gun control people say I don't shoot straight, they're going to say that. What can you do? She went out and spoke to people on the other side of the fence who called me names in the article and said, you can't rely on me. I mean, I published the gun laws. Here they are. You like them, you hate them. That's your choice. But to say I don't shoot straight, that's what the left does. They make stuff up. They attack you by name. They didn't provide any real information. And the debate goes on and on about whether we should have firearms rights or not, whether the Second Amendment is good or not. I would ask the left, what firearms would you allow us to have? And I don't like the word allow.
Yeah.
What firearms should we be free to have? And when you ask them that, they tell you you certainly shouldn't have this. Okay, well, what firearms should we have? Well, you shouldn't have that. Well, what firearms should we have? And the only things they'll name is, well, you shouldn't have an AK-49, because they don't really know gun names.
Right.
And I'll say, well, the AK-47 is a commie gun. I prefer the AR-15 because it's an American gun.
There you have it.
But why would you outlaw that gun? And the only reason they have is they've heard it in the news. They don't really know anything about firearms. And my approach is whatever the police think they need to fight the same criminals we face is a reasonable thing for us to have. And any gun pointed at a police officer or somebody who's innocent is a crime. So whether it's a little gun or a big gun with a lot of bullets or a few bullets, pointing a gun at somebody illegally is a crime. It's at least an aggravated assault, which is a Class 3 felony, 7 years in jail. And the type of ammunition shouldn't matter.
Right.
The idea that ATF is coming after people or wants to outlaw kind of ammunition because it's dangerous, ammunition's supposed to be dangerous, fellas.
Right.
You can't lower the penalty because you're using less dangerous ammo or more dangerous ammo. Ammo is dangerous. And threatening somebody with a gun gets a penalty.
Alan, we have 1 minute left here. Do you have a final thought, one note you want to get out to the listeners just as it appeals to gun laws?
Well, shows like yours, Mike, help preserve freedom, and I hope you stay on the air for a long time and have other guests on who understand freedom and discuss this so the listeners can get it. If you want more of me, you can go to gunlaws.com, send me an email, whether you like or dislike what I'm saying. If you're confused about guns, I have books. I have one for first-time people, Your First Gun. If you want to know more about it, After You Shoot, we'll get you right into the heart of the matter. And if you're thinking about getting a gun, try the Arizona Gun Owner's Guide and get the rules in plain, simple English. Don't be an idiot, and help us get education into the schools because they absolutely refuse.
Thank you, Alan Korwin. Check him out at gunlaws.com. When we come back, your update with Operation Game Thief next.